Today, we are honored to have Ms. Noris Binet back again for maybe her fourth or fifth time. She's got a talk today. It's called Where Opposites Meet, Hispanic, Pre-Hispanic and Contemporary Mexico. Noris Binet is from the Dominican Republic, has resided in Ajijic for 5 years, and previously lived in Mexico from 1976 to 1989. She is a visual artist, a poet, author, spiritual teacher, and sociologist, completing her studies at the University of Guadalajara. We welcome you to the stage. It is your show.
Thank you. How we should begin something so immense, complex, and ancient, like it is Mexico, cultures. So I would like to have some time that we extended looking within our own ancestry. So I would like to invite you just a couple of seconds to close your eyes and travel within your origin. Where are we coming from? Really, just a quick inner journey within your ancestors' line. You could be thinking that you just come from Europe, or you come from the United States, or that you come from Mexico, that you come from wherever you think that you're coming from. Go even beyond that and go all the way to see your parents, your grandparents, the race, the culture, the land, the rivers, the sky, the clouds, the vegetation, the nature. Where are you from? Really? Can we say that we are from one place? Or we can discover that we are the human race, one animal in this planet, and the most powerful one. Can you recognize yourself as one with the whole cosmos that surrounds us? The birds that we hear right now. Can we land fully in the truth of who we are? The essence that brings all of us together independently of color, race, language, ancient or recent. Can we embody within ourselves in this moment? We don't require more than this moment to really land here with me and recognize the right that you deserve to be here, alive, full of life, in this marvelous environment. You are welcome by everything that's around you. So, we're here together. Welcome. One of the reasons to make this long journey was because I felt that I needed to re-immerse and realign with the landscape and the energy left behind by the ancient cultures in their settlements, architecture, and their relationship with their environment, registered in their arts, crafts, temples, and rituals artifacts. At the same time, I want to explore what changes or what had changed since I was in those beautiful, charming colonial towns that I explored back in the 70s. At the same time, I felt that my husband will not be able to really understand where he was if he didn't take this kind of trip. We have been bounded in Ajijic for the last 6 years. And as much as I love this town, that is home to me, I was missing the diversity that there is in this country and the profound mastery and mystery of the rich cultures that are interwoven as a colorful tapestry. So I didn't quite feel that I have fully landed in Mexico. So this was an opportunity, obviously in winter, because you don't want to go to Yucatan in the summer, and to explore so that he could really begin to have a sense why he's here and what is here. What is the legacy of this culture? So we engaged into this 57-day trip. I didn't know that was going to be 57, but that is what it took to do more or less, you know, an immersion that it was not too deep, not too light, but allow us to really be nourished by what this ancient and modern culture in Mexico could offer. I will begin to let you know about safety, because we hear so many stories, concerns, fear around traveling in the south of Mexico. And I'm happy to report that it is safe. We only saw 3 accidents, and all of them happened in the state of Jalisco. 3 hours from here, going to Mexico City. After that, I never saw another one. I am very mindful of how to move in this culture to prevent any kind of inconvenience. We travel during the day, no more 4 or 5 hours, and we go to our destination in daylight, to the hotel, to the town, to wherever we need it to be. I like to avoid any kind of situation that can bring any kind of uncomfortable complications. My husband used, coming from the United States and his own culture, he wanted to go there and go here. And I had to take him down. Wait a second, let me look the panorama. Let me see who is crossing. Let me see who is coming. Because you have to be aware when you are in another culture. How we move. What is the image, the language that comes through images? What is the images that you see around you? What are you looking at? So that you can really know, can I stop here or keep going? So it's a matter that you learn how to navigate another culture when you really allow yourself to listen, to smell, and to look. These 3 senses have to be very sharp, because then you can move along without a problem. The roads, they were super. Very well conditioned. Just in a few places, you will be passing through small roads, small towns, and you will have to be very mindful how you navigate that. Not because anything can happen to you, but because you can be thrown out by a truck coming along. So I had to bring this one because we're talking about the pre-Hispanic people, so they didn't have a laser. They have a bamboo or stick. So we're here in Guadalajara. The blue line, as you can see, is the way out, is the beginning. So the first things that we did is to come to Mexico City. And why Mexico City? Well, because I have my oldest friend, 40-something years ago, living there, who is a master of the city. He's a sociologist, he's a teacher in one of the university, the big university in Mexico, and he knows everything. So how do we begin? We began actually in the southern, very beautiful little town of Tlalpan. It's in the southern part of Mexico. Tlalpan, it's not like Ajijic, it's bigger than Ajijic. It has an incredible infrastructure, beautiful church, beautiful plaza, everything very well taken care of, beautiful. But now it's part of Mexico, because Mexico grew up and took Tlalpan as one of their pieces, as many other like Coyoacán. So we began there, but we really began in the lake of Xochimilco. Xochimilco is one of the lakes that form part of Texcoco Lake and all of this different area that was really full of water. And what happened in Xochimilco is such an amazing touch of the ancient culture, because we navigate in this boat that is called trajineras. That is the name, because this kind of boat is not a regular boat. It is open, they fully open, and they have a table in the middle, and you have like you are in your own little house. You're navigating through those channels, and they are not moved like the normal. They have this long stick that is really long, that they really move slowly, and you really feel that you are in a palace, surrounded by the chinampas, because the chinampas is one of the amazing agro-technology of the Aztec culture, that it was like going back in time, because visually you don't have any construction, any modern image into this natural world that still smells like nature, if you know what I'm saying. This ecosystem of cultivation was so effective that it's still an intensive production continues so amazingly that was declared in 1987 by the UNESCO a human heritage. Because the amount of fruit and vegetable that is produced in this area is pretty amazing. Really amazing. As you are floating and feel the freshness of the atmosphere, a floating restaurant approached you, offering us drink and snacks, and they prepare right there. It was just like a vision of another time, so fascinating that they could prepare everything right there. And it was like going back on time and witness how they cultivate their land, nourishes their life. That was something that really took you to have a flavor, how it used to be, this expression of creativity, because the chinampas are in top of water, but they have to have particular trees to be able to hold the land together. As you go through all these channels, and you can see what is producing here and there, you just can go back and imagine people in their canoe, bringing and taking and selling and buying. Oh, it was such. So if you never had gone to this place, it's very safe, very easy, highly recommended. From there, I'm going to move to the Templo Mayor. The Templo Mayor holds, in many ways, a glimpse into the creative mastery of the Aztec, and how their cosmogony, most important aspect for me, is their deep understanding of the basic dualism of light manifestation. They don't mess around with this. For them, life is dual. Life is about the opposite, being acknowledged, being recognized, and navigate life, moving, yes, you're right, moving from one side, yes, to the other. I tell you, under this invocation that we're doing today, even the birds come and speak. That is how the Aztec actually live their life. Animal speaks. Snake bring certain energy. The jaguar have a particular power. So other cosmogony is full of nature because they have the capacity to listen the language of the bird, to see the color of existence, to feel the underlying energy that exists in this tree. So they were not separate from their environment. That is why this whole perception that they have, it was a perception of wholeness. Because they didn't divide the world between good and bad. But they have good and they have bad. Because the Aztec was an empire where everybody around had to submit to. So we're talking about the manifestation of humankind in all complexity. Because they had this view of existence that you can't understand anything unless you understand everything. That is at the core of wholeness. And this is a modern phrase from a writer, but that doesn't say that it only belonged to this time. It used to be there because you have the eyes to see, you will see it in everywhere. So their building was carefully placement. They were not just put it here because a road is going to be constructed. No. It was placed because they knew how the sun come out, how the moon crossed, how Venus came around. What kind of energy is happening when the sky is in this place? It's really amazing to see, especially if you go now to the Mayan world, to the observatory in Chichen Itza. There you can, if you stay there long enough, in that time you were able to, I'm talking about 40 years ago, where you could stay there on the night and be able to see where Venus will come and where the sunset took place and, that kind of thing. The central pyramid, or the Templo Mayor, is crowned by two towers. In reality, are two altars. So one was to the god of the war, and the other was to the god of rain. Isn't that interesting? What had to do war and rain? They are opposite. Rain is giving life, war is taking life. So they bring those altars to honor this deity, not because they are magical thinkers, but because they knew that what sustains life is sacred. What takes life is sacred. So it's a whole new, different way to exist in the world. So for them, all those aspects was everywhere. Death and life, drought and rain, summer and winter, and so on. Entering into the Templo Mayor, you can feel energetically the influence that they have and that they were able to register. And if you stay long enough, and even if you get quiet, you can feel what that whole environment was about. Because the symbolism that they have there, they were amazing abstraction of the natural world. And then you can actually begin to feel a deeper connection with nature. Because you see nature honor everywhere. Flowers, animals, the wind. So you begin to feel, oh, there's something here that is pretty profound. And their observation was not only about replicating nature, they have a great capacity of abstraction. That means that I can see a tree, a flower, and I'm not necessarily going to reproduce it exactly, but I'm going to take the essence of it. And maybe it will be a line with two little things in the side or branches, but you capture the essence of what it is. Their life was very interwoven with this powerful animal spirit. Their energy were harvested during their rituals and their ceremonies. For example, today you will see the sculpture of this gigantic snake coexisting with a colonial building in the background. It really takes your breath away because you are here and the snake is right there, and there you have this beautiful colonial building. And that image tells you a lot about two different cultures, one invading other, one sustaining, one decaying, and how they are together. And you can see the beauty and the incredible capacity of humanity to really be able to evolve and create in all kinds of circumstances. It's an amazing symbol that is in juxtaposition with each other and complementing each other. The Ciudadela of Teotihuacan, for example, is such a magnificent example of the grandiose scale of how they perceive the power of nature by the placement of the pyramid, the moon and the sun. You can miss it. You can be lost. Oh, how do we get there? This is look at what is there, the pyramid. I know, but we're going through here and there. There's a lot of dust, but oh, the other one. So keep driving. You will find it because they're so obvious, they're so potent, they're so alive still now. That when you walk in, you have to stop. If you are mindful enough and say, let me take in what this means, how this was placed, what happened to me when I come in here that could be similar to what happened to them when they came there. Something had to happen when you walk into this whole pyramid that you feel like this is a manifestation of someone who feels that the sun is grandiose. And when you turn, then you have the moon in a smaller scale, but so powerful there that it pulls you in. How is to walk this passage that was called the passage of death? Because all those cultures were reenacting continuously life and death, life and death. In many one of their performance, let's say, under ritual. For example, in the Aztec world, they even have an area for the poets, for the artists, for the writers. And Nezahualcóyotl is one of the rulers who was considered a prince, because his capacity to put into words. And he said, is it true that on earth one lives? Not forever on earth, only a little while. Though jade it may be, it breaks. Though gold it may be, it is crushed. Though it be quetzal plumes, it shall not last. Not forever on earth, only a little while. if you get today any one of the great spiritual teachers, is it different? No. So what we begin to see is that there are a movement connection through humanity, deep within each one of us. That it doesn't matter that a civilization rise and fall, still is there in every culture. It will be someone who are deep enough within themselves and in manifestation that bring those kind of words. For example, the predominance of Tlaloc, the god of the rain, is everywhere. You cannot turn any place that Tlaloc is not. And who is this one, Tlaloc? And what is, Tlaloc is everywhere. Why? Because without water, there is no life. So Tlaloc is the god of the rain, is the god of the water. So this spirit of this culture was so embedded in nature, that was their force, that they turned to see it as a sacred giver of life, because they discover too, like many of us, that life is sacred. Even that one, that is just landing right there because he decided that he wanted to hear. Now he heard and say, I know that, let me get out. So he flew away. So sacred have a totally different kind of connotation. Whole Mesoamerica, this whole thing from here all the way to here is called the Mesoamerica civilization. Because if you keep going, the Maya actually came all the way to Honduras. So we're talking about this part was in the middle, was not divided. It was not United States, Mexico, and Guatemala. No. It was an ancient world that is called Mesoamerica. So all the culture of Mesoamerica have this kind of reverence and weaving culture with them. And it's still today. The Huichols Indian. If you go with the Huichols, you will be taken into the ritual and the ceremony of honoring and the shrines everywhere, because that is sacred. Lacandones, Tarascos, you name it, it's everywhere. But how were they able to have a cosmogony that was inclusive of the life force in all nature? I think that understanding the totality of existence, of life that manifests in form and is unmanifest as well, is the numinous that can be perceived by intuition. Not every aspect of existence can be measured, can be found out through science. There are one aspect that a being that is alive can tap into the aliveness of existence. And we cannot prove is right or is wrong. But what history and culture has shown us is that they are able to evolve and create incredible legacy by feeling, by touching, by listening, by creating from within themselves. And that, I think, that is the legacy of this culture. Because when you find some of the artifacts, you are just like, wow, how they were able to do this? Where this come from? How they could create all those kind of images and artifacts. We find incredible things, because every one of these sites is outside and we have a museum. So every museum, it will take you to the history, will explain you, and mostly they were bilingual. There were few of them that they were not bilingual, but mostly you go into, and then you go from one room to the next one, to the next one, and you say, wow, this is, especially wow, from my husband, who was thinking that he landed in a country that was not quite developed, that was not quite sophisticated, that was not quite da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So he probably, at the end, can share how he was impacted. One of the things that is profound as well is not just the massive of their creation, but the simplicity of their creation. We even find a museum, this would be a little ahead, would be in Puebla, where they were able to put together the gesture that that particular culture did in a daily life, you know, like we have today. What kind of signs we do, when people do that, they say hello, hello, or people do this. So they were able to put together what they did and what we do right now, and see the difference and the similitude between the way how we use the body language to tell something to somebody, you know? So that was really very interesting. So, leaving Mexico City, and I'm just going to mention the Museum of Anthropology, because that museum really gathered an incredible immensity of work that will take you a few days to be able to see it. But one of the pieces that they have there that is absolutely to see, because it was taken from the tumba de Pacal, that was the last emperor in Chichen Itza. Any one of you were there in the 70s, you were able to go to the pyramid and then come down and see this incredible stone cover his tomb that I don't know how many tons weight, and I don't even know how they took it out. But right now, it's in the Museum of Anthropology, and you cannot go on top of that pyramid anymore. It's done. And I'm talking about Palenque, not Chichen Itza. The road to Puebla is simply beautiful. That's it. Surrounded by pine trees, giving to you the atmosphere of fresh and clean air, and an amazing kind of uplifting spirit, because this is very high. But what is amazing there, that immediately you are in Mexico City, you are flanked by these two incredible volcanoes. That you don't see very clear today is polluted, but the Templo Mayor and the Teotihuacans were able to live with these two incredible volcanoes. That was amazing just to be looking at it. And Popocatépetl represent the masculine energy, and the Ixtaccíhuatl represent the feminine energy. There is a legend in Mexico that Popocatépetl is a warrior standing and active, and Ixtaccíhuatl is a woman sleeping, waiting to awake. So when you get to Puebla, you're going to be taken over by the Baroque city that is incredible. You feel that you are inside of a ceramic piece, period. Because the Spaniards decide to build this city of Puebla where there were not indigenous settlement, so that they could create the perfect, beautiful, exquisite jewel that is Puebla. It's amazing, because whatever you go through the street, it's like reading poetry sitting in a corner cafe, illuminated by walls, the balconies, or any building that around you. You are, wherever you turn, there is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It's like you cannot stop looking one corner, the next, and going to the other one. It's incredible ceramic. Then we have next door Cholula. Cholula is the biggest base pyramid in the world. The magnificence of Cholula was that really have such a tragedy history. It's where non-Cortes were able to really defeat incredible amount of indigenous people. They were basically trapped. And at the same time, they are just totally in alignment with the Popocatépetl, with the Iztaccíhuatl. So in the top, the Spaniards built a beautiful church. You cannot take that away. As much as you feel, my God, how terrible. And when you are inside of the church and you're coming out of the church, you have the Popo and the Iztaccíhuatl. So you can go back in time and realize, and you imagine for these people, the ceremony and the ritual they will do with clear air and have these incredible two volcanoes in front of them, because that was the alignment that they have for the energy of uniting the opposites. Right in the middle, these two forces, the masculine and the feminine, coexisting together and navigating. So that is a site that is remarkable to be able to be there. Actually, with the latest technology, they have been able to discover that Cholula, underneath Cholula, there are an immense amount of tunnels. Incredible. There are even a documentary about it. So many that they have not been able, they don't have enough resources to be able to find out every one of them. So that is incredible. So I'm going to, because I just have 10 minutes left, to tell you right here. So here you are in Puebla, you have the volcanoes, you have these incredible, beautiful churches, more churches than in Puebla you're not going to find anywhere. They are beautiful, they are amazing, well done. The town is just precious. We pass through Jalapa, Veracruz, that is another town that is even higher, and we go through that road, and it's high desert. You will relate very clear because my husband was just jumping. Oh my God. And from there, you can see actually the peak of Orizaba. That is the tallest one in Mexico. From there, we descend all the way to Catemaco. Catemaco is a lagoon, beautiful preserved lagoon, that means a place of the witches. So Catemaco is a place where people go to be cleansed, to engage in, it's a whole race dedicated to witchcraft. But we talk about real witchcraft. You don't know the minute you know, the one, so anyway, you have a reserve, an ecological reserve there that is called Nancillaga, that is jungle. Totally preserved. You have to sleep there in a little cabin, full of monkey, guacamaya. Is like entering in another world. From there, we passed through Villahermosa, not to stay, but because we were going to Palenque. Now we enter into the world of the Mayan people. Palenque, you know, is wet, is warm, is amazing. It's when you find one of the first apportation of the Mayan architecture, that is Maya art, that they are the one who develop. It's a very particular time, and you will be able to enter to one of these areas, dripping water, because it's in the pure jungle. You have no escape, but at that time of the year, it's magnificent. So from there, the easy way, if you come in here, is going to go through Campeche, that is a Caribbean town, very well preserved, and then you land in Merida. Merida, I tell you, is a jewel, period. It's a jewel. You will dance every night, everywhere, all the time. And it's a beautiful preserve, and it's a Caribbean island. And from there, you land in Chichen Itza. Chichen Itza, you know, it had a pyramid that is one of the 7 marvels of the world, one of the best preserved. You pass through Valladolid, it's a beautiful Spanish town, and then we land in Playa del Carmen. Playa del Carmen is a new phenomenon. Great. They have a Fifth Avenue. The one who have been in New York can go there. The Fifth Avenue is always packed with tourism. And from there, we visit Cancun, that have the best museum of the Mayan culture. not only the Mayan, but they cover all the way of the civilization that lived right around here. It's an incredible museum. And then we stayed in Playa del Carmen for 2 weeks, and we went up and down. Tulum is a new phenomenon. They have their own architecture that is weaving branches. So you go to a hotel, and there are no walls. There are no angular, everything is curved, and you will be walking into a hat, almost, one of those wooden hats. It's incredible what they have done. And then from there, we came to Llanura de Bacalar, that is precious, because the underground is totally white. So what you have there is turquoise white, the turquoise water, and this white sand that you can bathe all the time and you can navigate it. And we took the chance to go all the way to Belize, to Cartagena. That was a disaster, but we did it. We had to cross Manglar, we had to come out of the car, wait for 1 hour to put the car on top of something, and then move it along the way, and then find another one. The beach is terrible, but you know, they speak English, so he was complaining all the time by the language. I said, well, let's take you to Belize. They speak English and you can speak to everybody. But we rode back next day, said, let's get out of here, and we begin the way back. The major discovery that I wanted to tell you is this area, Sambanqui. Never heard of it. But Sambanqui is, you have, Escárcega is a place that everybody had to cross. Doesn't matter where you go in that area, you have to go through Escárcega. So we came around Escárcega and we moved to Sambanqui, and this is a world of lagoons that is unbelievable. You had to cross a very long bridge and begin to go through there. And we landed in Isla Guada, the first place that I found shells. Because you don't find shells anymore in the beach, do you? They don't. They haven't. We continue to going. We came back to Catemaco because it was a place to come back and stay for a while. And then we came to Orizaba, a town that we love it. We were going to go to the peak, but at the end, didn't look like it was too safe to drive all the way to the peak and find you know what. We didn't do it. We came back to Puebla, because Puebla, my husband was in love with Puebla and was a place to come back and spend a few more days. And then from there, we came to Teotihuacan. And from Teotihuacan, we came, that was an incredible experience, we went to Tula. Any one of you heard about Tula? Okay, Tula is this incredible, gigantic sculpture. Very interesting. And from Tula, we came to Querétaro. A town that I have passed many times, but this time, I find it pretty amazing. It's beautiful. It has a park that I haven't seen in any other place in Mexico. It's a Spaniard, I don't even know. You've seen these movies from Europe that these women dress and they walk with the husband and they exhibit their dress and everybody is like, wow. And the other family go there. That's the kind that you have. Querétaro. La Alameda, el Parque de la Alameda is amazing because you cannot go all the time. It's closed, so they have hours that they open. So you have this incredible, oh my God, you want to dress up and have a hat and be, you know. So, and the last part that we were is in between Querétaro and Guadalajara, that is very close from here. We were able to enter, they call this the archeological corridor. And here we are in Guanajuato, Michoacán, Jalisco, you never know which state you are in, but one of, you know. So it's called La Plazuetas. And that place was between the north and the south. So their architecture is very interesting because it has influence from all the places. And they have a little museum there that is a jewel. It's beautiful because it really gives you a picture what means to have immigrants. Because the immigrants bring with them their culture, their art, their heritage, and how they cross between each other, influencing everyone. So it was very profound to discover that little place, and I'm finishing right now with a poem, very short poem, from Nexahualcoyo. Flowers are our only garments. Only songs make our pain subside. Diverse flowers on earth. Ahuaya, ahuaya. Perhaps my friends will be lost. My companions will vanish. When I lay down in that place, I just sing in the place of song and of life giver, of Waja, of Waja. Does no one know where are we going? Do we go to God's home, or do we live only here on earth? Oh, Awaja, Awaja. Thank you.
We'll take questions. I'll come around with a mic. Anybody want to have a question? Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who has a, right here?
If you have a question or you have an experience in any one of those places, you're welcome.
So you were talking about traveling only in the winter, but if you're at high elevations in some of those places, which are the places that have the high elevations that can be traveled at other times?
Mexico City, Puebla. Let me tell you, that doesn't mean that you cannot travel to those places as well. You can. I was joking that winter, I have an American man that I'm married with, that the climate always is a subject, okay? But Mexico City was so cold that you can, I was with gloves. I have my gloves with her, and I have my cape of wool to go into the whole thing. My friend didn't have any calefacción because they don't have it. So I took with me a sleeping bag, because in that truck we took everything that we could, from food to a sleeping bag, even almost a bed, let me tell you, because I said, well, any condition that you find, we can resolve it. So, no, Puebla is very high, it's cold. Jalapa is very high. Mexico City, Tula, all that area. Here, and then Orizaba, sweetheart. When you're driving from Orizaba to Puebla, it's challenging, because that part of the road is all the time foggy. Very high, it's foggy, foggy, foggy. You cannot see from here to there. I say, oh my God, let's see if we get arrived alive to this place. So all this area is pretty high. And Oaxaca is pretty high. We didn't touch Oaxaca and Chiapas because you cannot do that so much, you know? So when you lie in Catemaco, then you will be coming down to the, to the ocean level.
Any other questions?
I feel like I have to defend myself a little. I'm the ignorant husband that was with her. It was an extraordinary experience, my friends. I love living here, but I think we don't get a true picture necessarily, because there's so many of us here. No need to speak Spanish if you don't want to learn it. And in many of those places where we travel, I was the only pale face there. Like say, for example, often in Merida, although there were a lot of tourists there as well, but just such a different feeling of immersion. And of course, we know the Mexican people are hospitable and lovely wherever you go, as they are here. And I, of course, was touched by that very deeply, but I think, living up north of the border, growing up there, getting the impressions that I did about the country south of us, it was not always very favorable. In fact, it was rather, you know, I would say prejudiced is one word to describe it. All of that was shattered. It was almost shattered here, I think, to a large degree, getting here to Ajijic. But going into these other places, the culture that Noris spoke of, the richness of the history. We have our history up north, of course, but when you go back thousands of years to these magnificent structures, and you're able to see it, you touch the stone that ancients touched, and you feel this atmosphere, and you sleep in a cabana in a jungle preserve at Nansiyaga, and see the care that the people took in preserving this place, and inviting folks with a beautiful restaurant there to eat at. I just can't say enough about this country where many of us now live. And if you have the opportunity to do some traveling, people say that that's how we really get educated, is through travel. Certainly true for me. So I would urge that for you as well if you have that opportunity.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, there are a couple more.
There's somebody in the back.
Couple more.
Tin your English flag where you put it here, and you're going to forget.
I want to ask you a question.
In your body.
Why in the schools, in the Mexican schools, don't they teach this in schools? And I'm talking not just the public schools. I'm talking about the private schools. I'm talking about lawyers, famous lawyers who live in Guadalajara, and doctors who do not know this history of Mexico. And why doesn't the Mexican government, through education, teach these young people, especially we as foreigners, like you said, we know a lot about the history of Mexico. And thanks to your presentation, we know more. And I've traveled through Puebla 40 years ago, and Chichen Itza and so on. But a lot of these Mexicans don't know this history. And I think it would enrich the Mexican country if the young people knew about this through education. And your University of Guadalajara,
Let me tell you something. You will be surprised the amount of Mexican people who are in all those places. That was happening 30 years ago or 40 years ago, that it was not that much known about all this area, but I was very surprised to see how many Mexican and how is a revival actually in the country, in the young people reenacting and taking back the ritual and the ceremonies. And let me tell you, I came here and I studied architecture in 1976 in University of Guadalajara. And we had to go to the Maya region with our teacher to study the Mayan architecture. Obviously, as we know, cultures follow trends. Who is the trend? Oh, modernity. Oh my God, we had to be modern. We had to let go all that was in the past because that was not the best. And now what's happening? We are coming back. And I see that happening in Mexico, in many, many places. And I have been educated by Mexican people, my Mexican friends, let me tell you. So I understand that more could be done. And this president, AMLO, one of the legacies that is living is precisely the honoring and respect for the indigenous culture. If you go now to Mexico City, to the Zócalo, you will be incredibly impacted by the amount of indigenous people that was there during Christmas with all the paraphernalia to enjoy. Not only that, United States and Canada just have a meeting very recently with their head director about the women indigenous people. And they have even exhibition in Mexico City. So I think that right now is a very clear in Mexico effort to honor those people, not just the archeological site, but the descendant of those cultures, that they are here. And you have it all around here too, because in Tuscany, they live here. The Azteca came all the way to the Cerro Colorado. Actually, they are the one who put the name Ajijic. And the one who live here were the Tuscany. So we are surrounded by indigenous heritage and European as well. You know, every time that my husband would say, oh, but this look European, so European, I said, but who do you think that we are? We don't come from any other place. We are a new race. That is why they call it New World, because we mix. Spaniard came, Anglo came, who know where French came, indigenous people were here, black people were brought here too. You're only going to find it in this area, in Guerrero, but you're going to find a lot in Michoacan. And some of these areas, they were black slaves that were brought to Mexico. Not in great demand, because they have a lot of indigenous people, but they were here. So, anyone else who would like to have a question, or?
I do, Noris.
Two people. Okay, you get up and talk. Just one, well, no more questions. Okay, but then I just wanted to invite you. One of the things that I offer is what is called satsang. I have some flyers here. If anyone is interested in coming next Sunday to Villa del Ángel, to have a time of quiet, silence, self-exploration, grounded at home, you are invited. We have some flyers here, and that's all.